On the Fringe with Dan RadioStyle. Hope everybody out there's having themselves a great day. Q has got a lot going on right now, and I feel like we're almost taking a small step back. I feel like maybe we're getting a lot of new Q people to come on board. One of the things I want a lot of people to think about, just starting off, if you were to try to control, especially here in the United States or the Western world, probably similar, if you wanted to try to control people, if you wanted to try to get people to behave how you wanted, how would you go about it? Now, there'd be, I think, a couple ways you might go about it. One, bribery, right? If I've got some money, I've got some extra cash, I might try to push that towards you in smart, interesting kind of ways, see how you react to that. And based off of that, might be able to accomplish all sorts of wonderful things. If we've got a situation where you're not doing what I'd like because of money, or maybe because it might look bad or it might go against the public interest, right? A lot of these things that people talk about, how could they get away with that? That would be horrible. People would freak. They would say something. How do you get away with things that are not okay? One of the ways you do that when they're not willing is threatening. There's a few ways you can threaten people. There's a few ways you can do this. Blackmail is a solid plan. You blackmail someone, you get somebody in a conspicuous kind of situation, and now all of a sudden you can kind of control them. You've got reins like on a horse, right? You put that bit in their mouth and they'll do whatever you need because you've got them on picture. You've got bits of them on a digital photo. And that's one way that it happens. Another is threats of physical violence if it ever needs to get to that point. There's been maybe a few people that got to that level of fear. Seth Ritz, I don't think he was ever far enough along, just to throw an example out there. But when you get someone like WikiLeaks, right, Assange, yeah, he's got some situations set up in case he doesn't check in properly. So Q has a lot of this that he's bringing to our attention. A lot of people are waking up right now to the fact that maybe your government hasn't been serving you. Maybe your news media is lying to you. Maybe there's some things that you need to ask. Questions. Be a little more discerning about the information that's being provided to you. Maybe the information being provided to you is crap. Just outright, just not good. So we need to learn to pay better attention to the way this game is played and how we have been manipulated throughout the ages, months, years, longer for sure. Q's been trying to help us with these sorts of things. 4316 is the last post that we left off with Q. Fear not, all will be well right after the election. A lot of talk about the election, obviously. Everyone, if you think about it, this is all about the election. For whatever side of this equation you're on, this is all about the election. The election is going to be an amazingly hot topic, which means everyone that's pro-Democrat, on that side, is going to try really hard to come up with ways that they can help the Democratic Party win the election. Any number of ways, doesn't matter how, doesn't matter if they've got to step on rights, doesn't matter if they have to cheat, doesn't matter if they have to steal, doesn't matter if they have to corrupt. That's kind of been the way things have played out. Obama has been caught, it seems. We'll get more information as it plays out, but corrupting or having information maybe on journalists, for example, and blackmailing them to do things for him or to speak favorably of certain situations. Judge Roberts in the Supreme Court is a great example of someone that changed their tune after the effect when he voted to say no on the tax for the mandatory insurance, right? You have to have the insurance or you got to pay a tax. That's unconstitutional. Roberts initially said, no, that's not constitutional. But of the 9 Supreme Court people, he was the one that they were able to get change his opinion. Again, that's how the deep state operates. Did they have something on him? Probably. They probably had some dirt on him, frankly. And most likely, Epstein's a great example. How do you think someone like that ends up dead when everybody knows that he's got so much dirt on powerful people that of course he's a target? But he got killed, quote unquote. I don't think he committed suicide. That's ridiculous. So the election is everything. Is this about the virus or the election? Now, this begs the bigger question, obviously, or the election is in capital letters. Without spelling it out too much, obviously there's a lot of emphasis on the fact that maybe there's some tie together here, a little bit of baling wire, maybe some duct tape around this whole thing that's playing out before our eyes, and possibly the election, maybe changing some election laws, maybe trying to slow down the economy, maybe trying to get Trump out of the public, maybe trying to keep Biden out of the public, right? Because when that guy gets in front of the camera and turns on a live microphone, oh my Lord, who knows what crazy crap's going to come out of him, right? So there's a lot of things that are happening because of the fact that there's an interesting health scenario. Now, oddly, they're talking about modeling, showing the coronavirus pandemic in the U.S. could be over by November. This is modeling. Now, this is very convenient to benefit one side. Again, the side that I probably tend to lean towards. But I'm going to be honest, this tends to benefit that side. But of the cities that have opened thus far, the one thing that we've seen so far, so far, is the numbers didn't spike. I was expecting them to. I was expecting to see that spike happen. But it hasn't yet. I don't know, maybe there's a giant line here in the center, but really hasn't happened yet. A lot of questions are being called on the, at least one governor in particular, but a few of them, about how they handled this situation. Because again, it was up to the governors, not the president. Everyone was waiting for the president to make a decision unanimously across the republic, but he didn't. He said, no, state governors, that's your deal. That's your deal, folks. That's what you're here to do. So there's talk that things should look a lot better. There is some suggestive evidence so far that thinks that maybe the worst is behind us with this pandemic. We'll see. Definitely more and more places are starting to open. We'll see how that plays out. Another thing that got linked in here, coronavirus pandemic could be over in the U.S. by November 11th. Scientific model predicts virus will continue its steady decline with no second wave. No second wave. I think that sounds a little crazy, especially when it's all caps, but this is from the Daily Mail, so I don't know, take it for what it's worth. But no second wave. I think there'll be a second wave. Whether or not it's huge, whether or not it's significant, that's the question, and I'm expecting that it shall be probably on the smaller side. That's me. That's an opinion. I don't know. The coronavirus pandemic in the United States could easily be over as early as mid-November. New modeling has shown. Mid-November. What the hell happens in November that's a big deal? That's right, elections. Oh. So it seems that we're trying to paint a picture here, maybe. I don't know, just saying. Got to read with a little discernment, right? I mean, that's what's going on. They give you information. You can't assume. You got to look at the big picture. You got to understand. You got to follow the money. There's a lot of things that go to this. Post 4317. Got another great Twitter post here that we're going to get to. How do you change the narrative if facts are not on your side? Seriously. If facts, the actual historic facts, are not supporting of the claims you make. Now, the Democratic Party, believe it or not, and this is one thing that we're going to hear about, but the Democratic Party's kind of been on the wrong side of history in a lot of places. They were pro-slavery. They, in fact, were the main slave owners. They've been the last to adopt women's rights to vote. So they've been actually on the wrong side of history. For those of you that question this, I dare you to look it up. I dare you. Look it up. Dig up the information on what side the Democrat Party fell on these key core issues that right now, they're completely opposite. Completely opposite. They're on the other side of the equation, claiming to be the righteous folk. When in reality, historically, that's not been the case. So when that is the case, how do you deal with that? Well, let's take a gander here. Now, I'm just going to call this out right up front. It's strange that we're in a world today, maybe, where it's required that something like this has to be said from someone that's of an African minority or an African American minority. But that being said, she's got a very interesting point that's been shared by a number of conservative Black Americans that have been stepping forward to speak out their minds. Candace Owens, one that just pops into my head right now. But let's see what this lovely lady has to say.
Since its founding in 1829, the Democratic Party has fought against every major civil rights initiative and has a long history of discrimination. The Democratic Party defended slavery, started the Civil War, opposed Reconstruction, founded the Ku Klux Klan, imposed segregation, perpetrated lynchings, and fought against the Civil Rights Acts of the 1950s and 1960s.
These are a few of my favorite things. Really? Is that where we're at?
In contrast, the Republican Party was founded in 1854 as an anti-slavery party. Its mission was to stop the spread of slavery into the new Western territories with the aim of abolishing it entirely.
Yeah, so it's funny kind of how things play out in reality.
Since its founding in 1820
versus what they try to teach you. So going back to Q's post, and that's the important part here. So the form of the Black Caucus, the Congressional Black Caucus, 1971, I'll pull that up in a second here, but recruit and control of black community leaders. You've got to look at some of the people that are the black community leaders right now. Their net worths are pretty high. They've certainly made a lot of fame, book deals, all sorts of things. I can give all sorts of things that are very acceptable. But oddly, book deals seems to be one of those funny little places where a lot of people seem to make extra money secretly in ways that maybe they didn't necessarily earn as much as you would think. Again, dancing on eggshells here. Alter, change, modify history in the classroom. Things have been taught a lot differently about the Democratic Party. They don't obviously come out and just say the Democratic Party was in charge of slavery. No, they don't teach that, do they? You don't learn about that in school, do you? But that's reality. Now, they say history is taught by the victors, or history is written by the victors. So maybe the Democrat Party, or this party in general, has been the victor for a long period of time. But one would question what they're actually saying. And of course, you got the mainstream media that is the mouthpiece of the Democratic Party. So again, can I believe them? I don't know. I even question Fox News, frankly, and they're supposed to be on the conservative side. They're definitely deep state. There's no question about it. I would say at least 2/3 of the people that are on Fox News are definitely deep state people. Chris Wallace just screams deep state when he hops on the microphone. Kills me. Use corporate DNC media, MSN, push.com. Use 1, 2, 3, 4 together with an echo chamber, and you can create a narrative based off of what everybody is saying over and over. Echo chamber meaning saying it over. Like, hey, you, right? If I say it and repeat it enough times, you'll believe it. And if I say it and repeat it on 3 different channels, oh, well, then it's got to be true. I heard it on NBC, I heard it on CNN, and I heard it on CBS. It's got to be the truth. Because no one lies. No one shares the same stupid 4 a.m. talking points. No, that doesn't happen. But for whatever reason, we've been taught to believe that if it's said on the news, it's accurate. And what people are realizing, waking up, the beautiful part about the Great Awakening is they're starting to realize, no, this mouthpiece is propaganda. It's not true, to say the very least. They've frequently been caught in lies. They've had to change and pull back information, though they do it hidden in the middle of the night on secret pages, the 12th page of the paper, below the fold, right, all that crazy stuff. That's where that's happening. But the reality is that people are starting to accept the fact that the mainstream media is not telling us the truth. So they were pro-slavery, this is facts, switched to the Republican Party. Hang on. Use 1, 2, 3, and 4 to drive echo chamber false, idiotic narrative, bad pro-slavery Dems. Switched recently to the Republican Party, and the good anti-slavery Republicans switched to the Dem Party. So again, welcome to the Dem Party. So everyone's trying to kind of take over this narrative, trying to claim that they are who they are. Biden's come out. I don't want to play the quotes of him, but he's come out saying some pretty crazy stuff where he just thinks he owns this seat because he was the VP to the first African-American president. Somehow he feels like he's the guy. And there seems to be some questions around that. Again, people are asking questions. So the Prager University, very good stuff. Congressional Black Caucus, the CBC, as it's known, 1971. It was established. Although its roots go back to the Democratic Select Committee, the DSC was started in 1969 by Representative Charles Diggs of Michigan. Michigan, oddly, right? The place where the governor is taking away all your rights. They were looking for a way to for the 9 black members of the House of Representatives could meet and talk about their common political concerns. The DSC addressed a number of issues of concerns to African Americans, including investigating the killings of certain members of the Black Panther Party and boycotting President Richard Nixon's 1970 State of Union address. The boycott pressured Nixon into meeting with the DSC and discussing topics such as civil rights, Vietnam, anti-drug legislation, and welfare reform. Now, what's happened? One, I think the deep state probably played a very large part behind people such as John Lennon, but certainly people, Kennedy, right? But John F. Kennedy Jr., for sure, was on that list of people that were a threat. He wasn't playing the game. He didn't want to be a part of this voice. He wanted to be a part of a different voice. And again, I'm not speaking for the community, and I don't claim to know anything. This is just my understanding of it, my ignorance perhaps. But when they can take a certain situation that maybe was created somewhat fictitiously, or at least maybe created in a weird environment, or happened, and then they were able to blow it out of proportion and make it bigger. When these sorts of things happen, you can take that, pounce on it, and politically manipulate it to your benefit. And that's what it happened. You find something that's a noisy issue, something that's bad, something that's horrible. I think there's an example of one right now with a gentleman that was shot by 2 people and one guy in a truck. The whole thing's playing out in video. A lot of weird questions around this whole ordeal. But again, it doesn't look good. You can take situations like this and play it out of concept. You can take away some of the facts. You can take away key information. You can cut video at certain places, and you can change a narrative. And that's one of the things that's happened throughout history. Narratives have been abused and taken advantage of. Again, people are waking up. People across boundaries, barriers of all kinds. Post 4318, only when information, truth, again, what is truth? What is truth? A lot of things have a smidgen of truth in it, but that doesn't mean the whole entire newscast is truth. No, but that little snippet, that little second where you said that so-and-so said X, yeah, that was true. The rest of everything you framed around that was completely wrong, completely wrong. So only when information, truth, becomes the free, uncontrolled will, the people will take levers and control placed upon them. Meaning, once we understand what's been happening, we the people are going to take charge. We're going to take ownership. We're going to step up and say, this is ridiculous. People are protesting against the lockdowns of their governments, their cities, their states. Again, people are going to step up. Only when information, truth, becomes free, uncontrolled, will people awaken to the levers of control placed upon them. Again, think of all the things that have happened lately and how this is playing out. I'm not putting thoughts in your head. I'm asking you to think about what has been happening. Because only then will people find the will to change. Only when we see what is actually happening to us. Only when we're facing reality, not what they tell us reality is, but actual reality that we see with our senses, that we actually can discern, we can do research and verify that information. Only then will people regain control or power. The second we realize what's going on, the second we realize we're in charge, the second we realize that this is our country, that's when we take it back. That's when we become we the people. That's when that whole thing actually starts to make sense. Post 4319. Got a great Twitter post here from Mary Kay. Nobody is buying what you are peddling, folks. Nobody is buying this crud anymore. The what do they call it? Shinola, crapola, and shinola. Nobody is buying this nonsense anymore. We're not selling whatever you're selling. We're not buying it. The MSDNC is dead. The mainstream news media, the mainstream Democratic news media is toast. KDK here, of course, giving a hard time to Donald Trump for taking a day off to golf. I will say of all the presidents I can think of in any sort of length of time, Donald Trump for sure puts more time in office, in the Oval Office, more punch card hours in that office than anybody else, hands down. And certainly Obama. Obama was on the golf course all the freaking time. And then jogging around the White House with retard Biden, whatever that was. That just always seemed weird. And then, so we've got this whole thing. I'll play just a smidgen of this, but people talking about Obama golfing and the whole stay-at-home thing. And again, it's just the way the media tries to take one small thing. This guy wanted to get out for like 3 hours, 2 hours. I mean, if you're golfing by yourself, crap, you could golf probably 18 holes in 2.5 hours, probably quicker than that. Especially when you got like snipers perched everywhere saying, well, I think the wind's to the left by about three knots, sir. Like, when you've got that level of intel while you're on the golf course, that helps. It helps a lot, I would say. So again, let's take a quick break.
On Saturday, former President Barack Obama went golfing at the Robert Trent Jones Country Club in suburban Virginia. He's a member there. Obama was driven to the course about 40 miles from his home in the District of Columbia by a government chauffeur. Here's a picture of it from Politico. If you look, you can see that Obama is clearly enjoying himself, and honestly...
How funny if the government chauffeur actually he drove him in a golf cart for like 40 miles, like a Pope-mobile golf cart. That would be funny. I'm just saying. I have a messed up sense of humor.
Why wouldn't he be? It's beautiful out on the links and airy. You'll notice there aren't many people around, and that's because both Virginia and Washington, D.C. are still under quarantine. Everybody else is locked at home. And
it's the President of the United States. There's not going to be people around at all. Anyway, again, people making a big damn deal about something that doesn't frankly matter. And, that's just the way it is. So again, here's the Washington Post making fun of the weekend, dedicated, blah, blah, blah. I'm not subscribing. I'm not clicking anything here so you guys can see this. Feel free to subscribe to the Washington Post and check out this fantastic article about how big a damn deal it is that Trump was golfing. Don't particularly care. Certainly not worthy of giving them even my email address, let alone anything else. Post 4320. Fabulous stuff here. We got another link to a new Q drop in here, 4316, which is not too terribly long ago. Just covered that one. But fear not, all will be well right after the election. Now, this is kind of funny because someone posted this, and this is one of the things where I really do feel like Q is kind of allowing us to see that some people, some new people, are kind of coming to terms with this, coming to the Q game. And he's giving us a chance. So fear not, all will be right with the election. Here we are. Not all will be right after Durham, right? Because everyone made a big deal about Durham. So I guess some of the people that are following at home, playing the Q home version, are like, well, my Durham card came up and I don't know what happened next. Well, maybe it's a little different. Maybe Q is Q us quelling until the Democrats steal the election, right? Is that what's going on? Is that Q? Maybe. I mean, hey, maybe we're just the lobsters in the water that's slowly getting warmer and we're like, and we're starting to fall asleep and we're going to die. Maybe. I don't think so, though. Trump is hated majorly. Q is attacked majorly. People try to post these videos and they get dogged in a lot of ways because they're talking about crazy stuff. Though I could post a Bigfoot video or I could post a video about how the earth is flat. And that's going to be okay. But the second I start talking about this crazy nonsense called Q, then all of a sudden, that's a different story. So again, I don't think that that's necessarily how it's playing out. You feel free to believe that, and that's okay. I agree that this has been a long ride, and sometimes we've truly got to accept some things that maybe aren't evident or obvious, and sometimes we've got to believe that there is a plan, even though we can't necessarily see it. And I get there's some challenge there, and I can't offer you a whole lot of proof. I've seen evidence. There's been a lot of things that have happened. A lot of truth has occurred. A lot of people have been fired. A lot of spotlights have been shown on things that many of us crazy conspiracy people have talked about for years. I think there's a lot of possible evidence to suggest that we're heading in a direction that a lot of us have been waiting for. So just keep that in mind. So regarding drops, regarding COVID-19 virus and the election, last line should clarify. It's just about the virus or the election. Now, someone here was a little upset. Q quelling us until the Democrats steal the election. What the F does the election have to do with justice? It doesn't really. The justice and the election aren't really interrelated, except the election's tied to the fact that there's a deep state that's had its tentacles in all sorts of different places, and a lot of information has come out. Now we've got some new nationalization around the voting and around how the voting's going to occur. A lot of look into the different eligible voters in all the different cities. A lot of great information is coming out right now. So there's a lot that's happening. So once the election occurs, and you got 4 more years where it pretty much doesn't matter anymore, I think the gloves come off a lot at that point, and we start to really finish what was started. And again, a lot of things were started with Obama. We're supposed to continue with Hillary. And 2 wars later, Iran and North Korea, we would sit where we are now, probably with the pandemic still, and that would wipe out the rest of humanity. And then we would all be begging for our lives. But it didn't play out like that, did it? No wars, no war with Korea nor Iran. Right now, the pandemic seems to be reasonably small. And, I mean, it's bad. It's really bad. But it was supposed to be way worse, monstrously worse. And it's significantly better than what they feared. So, again, is this about the virus? Or is this about the election? And a lot of people kind of want to point fingers. The dictionary, sarcasm, the sharp and often satirical or ironic utterance designed to cut or give pain. A mode of satirical wit, depending for its effect on bitter, caustic, and often ironic language that is usually directed against an individual. It's hard to drip sarcasm in the definition of sarcasm, but I tried. Post 4321. Anonymous, sorry you had to explain that this board isn't what it was. I'm not sure if this is like the board owner, if like everybody knows his ID. Maybe that's it. I don't know. But that being said, I don't think we have to apologize for people asking questions, being uniquely people, right? That's part of it. And it's a great place to bring out the attention of the way we as a group of people are starting to grow. So popularity, growth, drives general non-autistic expansion. Now, the autists are the ones who tend to be a little bit challenging, tough, difficult, jerks. I don't know, I'll say it. But thank God for the autists. They're the ones that are figuring this crap out, and the way you're wired is perfect for what we need you to do. Sometimes you're not the one that we should be sticking in front of the patient, right? Your bedside manner sucks. You're really good as a surgeon and a scalpel in your hand. You are amazing. You suck when it comes to speaking to people. So again, we all have our places. Be good at what you're good at. I'm trying to be good at what I'm good at. And the rest of us are going to meet in the middle. And ultimately, Patriots win. We already won this. Really, we already have. And we just need to experience the way this is playing out. I know that's a lot to digest and believe, but there's a lot to suggest that there's some truth to this. Again, a lot's happening behind the scenes. This is probably going to be another exciting week. Let's see how it plays out. But again, where we go one, we go all. This has been a mantra that is serving us all very well. It's on the Fringe with Dan Radio Style.